Hi, I'm Ange McDonald, and welcome back to another bonus legal tips episode of the Startup and Running podcast. Today, we are talking about the dangers of replacing real legal advice with ChatGPT, in particular when you want a legal template. I understand the temptation because as a small business owner, you probably need this document quickly. You are probably worried about how much it's going to cost to obtain a legal template. And you think you've got limited options. So either you just kind of make one up yourself, Google it, take something off of someone else's page that looks similar to what you need, or you use something like ChatGPT. And when you use something like ChatGPT, you end up with a legal document that looks pretty professional. You know, it looks like a contract. It has all of the clauses in it. It has, the fancy headlines. It looks pretty legit. And you think, well, that's probably better than not doing anything at all or just Googling something. But the problem is it gives you a false sense of security. It makes you think that everything's fine and legit when it just looks like it is. And there's a few reasons why you need to be careful of using something like ChatGPT to create your legal templates. The first is that the document or the response that is generated by something like ChatGPT is only as good as the prompt. So if you just say, create me a terms and conditions document, then ChatGPT has got a very wide remit to go and work out what it thinks should be in that document and generate it for you. If you are a bit more specific and say, I need a terms and conditions document for this kind of business in Australia, there's still a lot of stuff that is not going to be included. And that's because you, as the person who's providing the prompt, probably don't know what you are legally required to put in a contract in Australia or whatever legal document is that you're asking ChatGPT to create. So the response is not going to be in compliance with your legal obligations because you don't know what those legal obligations are. And ChatGPT might know what they are, but they might also know what legal obligations exist in all different parts of the world. And without understanding exactly what you need, it's really hard to give it the best prompt to create this kind of document. Now, I'm not saying that it's not possible to create a large language model that would create a legally legit template document. But the large language model that would be able to do that is one that has been prompted well by someone who actually knows what is required in Australia. And it will also depend on the second reason why you need to be cautious in using these sort of services, and that is the data set. The response that's generated by something like ChatGPT will be based on a particular data set. What is it looking to try to understand what a contract should look like? And when you think about these broader large language models like ChatGPT and others, it will basically be looking at the whole internet. And you just have to ask yourself, what sort of terrible contracts or, random Reddit ramblings or just general trash is actually on the internet that forms part of the data set that something like ChatGPT would be looking at to create your document that you've asked for. What is it including? What is its reference material? If you don't have the education to understand what's in the reference material that it could be looking at, the reality is it could be creating a document for you that's based on trash. And how will you know? This leads into the next issue. How will you know if the document that's been created is based on trash? See, the third reason you need to be cautious in using these sorts of services is because the response, the document that's created, is only as good as the person that's reviewing the document. So you need to ask yourself, do you know what your legal obligations are? And do you know what is required to be covered by, for example, a contract in Australia? If you don't, how can you be in a position to look at what's been generated by ChatGPT and assess whether or not it's appropriate to serve your business? And it's really that education that you need. You can't kind of skip over that, unfortunately. You either need to get that education yourself, or you need to consult with someone who has that education. And look, lawyers aren't immune. There are cases where submissions have been filed with a court that include cases that have just been made up, hallucinated cases, because they've been generated by ChatGPT. And that's an example of like how it can go wrong, where just looking at something that looks right isn't actually right. ChatGPT will just make up a case reference and say that it stands for a particular principle when it doesn't. The case doesn't even exist. And so if it's doing that with submissions and it's fooling lawyers who actually should know what they're talking about, then what is it doing when you ask it to generate a legal document for you? Now, you can avoid these pitfalls. You, at the very least, should try to get a template from a lawyer, someone that you trust, someone that has expertise in the area that you're talking about. One option is you can join my Legally Legit Business Mentorship. I have a template library in there, and you can access that for as long as you're a member. And if there's a document that you need that isn't already in the template library, then you can just make a request as a member, and I will create that template and I will give it to you, and I'll also add it to the library, because the chances are if you need it, then one of our other members is going to need it at some point. That's just one of the benefits that you get from the template library. The other benefit that's really important in this particular scenario of needing a legal document is you get free 15-minute calls with me every month. So not only do you get the template, you can ask questions, we can go through the template together and complete it so that it works best for your business. If you want to learn more about my membership, you can go to stan.store/startupandrunning. Or if you're watching this on the internet, just comment membership and I'll send you the link. That's it for today's episode. If you have any questions that you would like me to address on these legal tips episodes, just send me an email at ange@startupandrunning.com.au. Until next time, stay confident, stay compliant, and stay running.